Hey folks, we are recording at Chainlink's SmartCon event, and joining me is Adam Minehardt, who is the head of public policy at Chainlink. Adam, great to have you.
Thanks for having me.
Adam, excited to chat with you. You have a very interesting background. You could be considered a crypto OG because you worked in TradFi, you worked at different crypto companies and so forth. Tell us a bit about that.
Yep, sure. I started off really in government. I worked at the Federal Reserve, then I went to Capitol Hill for the majority of my career. I spent 17 years on Capitol Hill.
Wow.
Working for a member who's senior on the Financial Services Committee, so deep in financial services policy, which now has jurisdiction over crypto, digital assets.
Yep.
From there, I actually went to Citigroup, where I worked in government affairs and policy there. And that was right around at the time that the PWG report on stablecoins came out.
Sure.
Crypto was starting to become a little bit more widespread. And being in a big bank at that time was very interesting. There was, you might say, some reluctance to engage on a issue area that was not quite yet mainstream.
Yeah.
Obviously, a lot has changed.
For sure.
From Citi, I went to Stellar Development Foundation, Layer 1. While I was there with some colleagues in the Layer 1 space, started a Layer 1 coalition of about 15 Layer 1s, where we really engage collectively on policy issues in DC from the Layer 1 infrastructure perspective, and then moved to FS Vector, where I stood up a crypto policy practice with a lot of major players in the space. And then more recently, about 6 months ago, joined Chainlink Labs as their head of policy, really standing up their government engagement side of things. So it's been fun. I've loved crypto, every minute of it.
Yeah, I mean, you've seen different facets of crypto, and even being at Citi, it's amazing now Citi's embracing crypto. Just recently partnering with Coinbase, looking to launch custody and things like that.
Yep. I think the journey of a lot of GSIBs, the largest banks, has been one of probably opposition to reluctance to now embracing it. So I think we've seen that process play out. I think at the beginning, you saw this really across Wall Street that, hey, we don't really want to touch this. Right. But as the industry's matured, as I think we're starting to see a regulatory framework emerge, I think there's growing comfort. And I think now if you read the tea leaves, crypto is going to be part of the financial services market ecosystem for the for the foreseeable future.
And Chainlink is playing a big part of that. I'm amazed at the adoption Chainlink is getting, not only from TradFi, but native crypto firms and competing blockchains which need Chainlink services.
No, exactly. Chainlink really has positioned themselves at the center of a lot of what's happening in distributed ledger technology. They're really becoming the connective tissue for really any institution that wants to connect with the blockchain. They want to do so in a compliant manner. They want to do so in a way that allows them to interoperate with other systems.
Right.
And they also want to be able to bring critical off-chain data onto the blockchain.
Yeah.
So you put these things together and you really end up with a full stack of technology that's really enabling anyone. It could be Web3. It could be someone like Aave, the world's largest DeFi protocol, to someone like a DTCC, Swift, JP Morgan, that have similar needs to want to access blockchain, but in a way that's structured and makes sense from a regulatory perspective. So Chainlink is really well positioned, I think, for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, I mean, it's incredible technology Sergey and the team have built. And like I said, I'm blown away that these different facets, which sometimes can seem like they're competing with each other, all integrating with Chainlink.
They do. I mean, there is a lot of vision from Sergey and the folks that created this technology to really understand the needs of blockchain technology and how it would work, and really the need for verifiable data that is critical for the operation of this whole ecosystem for smart contracts to work. It's called SmartCon, the conference we're at. Chainlink has basically made themselves almost indispensable for all of this infrastructure to really operate. So
absolutely. Now, Adam, we still got a lot of work to do in DC, which you're very well versed in. We know the government shut down, but once it opens back up, we're hoping to get the Clarity Act passed through the Senate. Tell us about what you're seeing there. What are some work Chainlink and the team has been doing to advocate for crypto?
An interesting thing about the shutdown is while the executive agencies are shut down, we do know essential workers are still working, travel, TSA, air traffic controllers. Congress is open. They are not off. So in many regards, the shutdown has actually enhanced some of the work on key legislation. So
interesting.
We've seen a lot of critical meetings occur with regard to the Senate version of the House-passed Clarity Act.
Yeah.
There have been key meetings within the last couple weeks. The Senate Democrats hosted 10 plus CEOs and executives. Sergey attended. The Republicans did the same. So I'd say during the shutdown, there have been a lot of critical discussions. I think there's some optimism now about the process being able to move forward before the end of the year. Do we get to the point where there's a bill going to the president's desk? I don't think so.
Okay.
But I think we're going to see progress.
Yeah.
So that's the hope. But I will say a lot of key meetings are occurring during the shutdown on the Hill. So progress is happening.
That's good to know, because from the outside, you think nothing's happening, but glad to hear certain factions of it is we're still working.
Definitely. And I think, hopefully the shutdown ends somewhat soon.
Yeah.
And when it does, I think that will open up some other areas of engagement.
Sure.
Treasury, for instance, things like that can actually help move the process forward even more.
Oh, absolutely. So are you thinking, and this is, we're all guessing here, but maybe Q1 is when it goes to President Trump's desk?
Yep. I could see spring next year being a realistic time frame to maybe get a bill to the president's desk.
Sure.
I think there will be meaningful progress towards the end of this year. Does that mean a bill gets through the Senate? I don't know. Maybe through committee.
Sure.
And I would say the legislative process is nonlinear. It's at best complicated.
Sure.
So this thing could potentially hit another hard spot. That doesn't mean it's ever dead.
Right.
So sometimes you do have to have these critical points where maybe things stop working, and that actually causes people to come back to the table in a more meaningful way. So, I'd look for a lot of ups and downs in this process. We see it with every sort of policy issue. There's a degree of brinksmanship involved, psychology. So I think we'll see more of that.
It's how the sausage is made, as it would say, right? Sometimes it's ugly, but this is how government works.
Yep. And one thing I'll add to that, I think overhanging a lot of this was the last Biden administration, what we saw out of the SEC.
Yes.
So I think to industry, and you really always overvalue the present versus what maybe could happen in the future.
Sure.
So could we see another Gary Gensler at the SEC? Could we see another Democratic administration? So I think that's in the back of everyone's head.
Yeah.
So if you get market structure, that can put some rules around all of this, to potentially mitigate some of that. So I think that's what we're all wrestling with.
Oh, absolutely. And boy, I can't wait for this bill to be passed, Adam, to see the innovation and the economic boom that's going to come out of this industry. What are you anticipating post this bill being passed?
I think we're going to see a lot of, for me, it's really an increase in asset tokenization, an increase in TradFi engagement.
Yeah.
I think we're going to see more entities enter the space who perhaps have been on the fringes.
Sure.
I also think we may be at the point where we start to see an inflection point for consumer adoption.
Yeah.
Really, a lot of the people that use crypto today, at least regularly, are people who have a technology background. They've been in the space for a long time. They can handle the UX.
That's right.
So I think getting it to more mainstream consumers to do so, I think what you really need is a regulatory framework to make them comfortable. So
Absolutely.
I think that could be a really big outcome of all of this.
Yeah, because I think about the applications and the things I do on a daily basis, whether it's YouTube or podcast or whatever app, right?
Yeah.
A health app, whatever it is. I'm waiting for when blockchain can be integrated into that, and it creates new features and new benefits and things like that.
100%. And I think that UX is something I don't think we talk about a lot.
Yeah.
I think the more you have these regulatory guardrails, more people will use it. Perhaps the features, the ease of use will get better.
Yeah.
They're looking at technology. So if you lose your seed phrase, you can get your key. So there's this key recovery type technology. There's other areas that can maybe lessen the aversion of more mainstream consumers to say, wait, I could look at this as a payments platform.
Right.
Maybe I want to invest directly here. Maybe I want to try DeFi. So I think a lot of that could be unlocked here.
Is DeFi included in the market structure bill, or is it its own separate thing?
It's been exempted from the House passed version.
Okay.
They largely exempt DeFi. In the Senate, one of the main issues that they're trying to reconcile is how much will they regulate or include DeFi. Most of all of us in the industry would just prefer hands off, let the technology grow.
Sure.
In a way that allows for its evolution without the constraints of regulation. I think there's a big education gap in terms of understanding what DeFi is and isn't.
Yeah.
I think people have an idea of what they think DeFi is, and it usually ends with North Korea. And when people hear that, they're like, we need to regulate this.
Yeah.
The reality is that that's not really what DeFi is.
Right.
I think we need to really ring fence it to allow the technology to evolve at this point. So that's the hope.
Yeah, well said. And hopefully they can get it right. I know it's complicated. I can't imagine being a lawmaker, policymaker, a member of Congress, and you're just like, oh, whoa, this technology is like moving so fast. It's so different from anything that we've seen over the past 50 years or whatever it may be, or more than that.
Well, definitely. I mean, even people in the industry who have technological backgrounds, understanding what DeFi is and isn't through a policy lens is really complicated.
Yeah.
Ideas of control, of custody, of how pools work, who can enter the pool. These are both complex technological questions. They're complex legal questions. Government agencies haven't thought of it in this context before.
Sure.
So a lot of it's new, and a lot of it's, frankly, intellectually a steep learning curve to understand.
Right.
Even if you know computer science, great, but understanding the policy and legal overlay, that's different. So
whole can of worms.
It is. It's really tricky.
Yeah. I don't envy the regulators on that front. The work they have to do. So do you think maybe DeFi comes years later as we continue to fine tune the legislation and so forth?
I think so. I think what they did in Europe under Mika was they pretty much punted on DeFi.
Okay.
They left it out. They chose not to put anything in it. In Mika. So it's kind of was put aside.
Sure.
And I think that's really what we're looking at in the U.S. Okay. I think that's the sensible approach is to make sure you don't really constrain the technology at the beginning.
Right.
If you did this with the internet in the early to mid 90s, you could have constrained the growth of the internet.
Absolutely.
And not had a lot of the promising uses we see of it now. I think DeFi is at that point. It's a foundational technology. It's not well understood.
Right.
Let's take a beat. Let's continue to monitor it, and I think get to it at a later point. I think that's the sensible tact.
Sure.
We're seeing other jurisdictions look at that approach, so I would hope that's where we end up.
Are you hearing anything new about the Bitcoin strategic reserve or the digital asset stockpile?
Yep. So we know Treasury is in the process of thinking about this,
Sure.
about how to stand it up. I think with the shutdown, a lot of those plans have been put on hold.
Right.
One thing I will note is that 3 states have passed strategic reserves.
Yeah.
Texas, Arizona, and New Hampshire. And they're all in varying degrees of thinking through how this would work from a custody perspective, a taxpayer transparency perspective.
Right.
So I think this may be an area, the cliche is like states are the laboratory of democracy. I think this could be an area
Right.
where the states do provide some initial work in the area that maybe
Right.
Treasury can draw on.
Sure.
So so the short answer on the federal level is I have no news on that front.
Right.
I know they're thinking about how to do it. Shutdown has delayed it, but I think we're starting to see states, the 3 states who've passed laws
Right.
signed by their governors are now moving those along. So that's exciting.
So maybe that's the better way, because from the ground up, right, the states can pivot and move
Yep.
versus the federal government's like a tanker ship. You can't move it like a cruise ship or
Totally.
a speedboat, I should say.
Right. And
Yeah.
I mean, that has a lot more eyes on it in a different
Yeah.
way. So I think thinking through the structure of this, the transparency, the rules for holding it, the rules for
Yeah.
custodying it, when do you sell? All of these are complicated decisions that will require a good amount of transparency so people have an understanding of what's going on here. After
Right.
all, these are taxpayer funds when it comes
Yes.
down to it. So
I wonder, this has been floated around, potentially tariff revenue being used to fund some of these things.
yeah, I mean, there's been a lot of discussion about tariff revenue being used for a lot of different purposes. I think one of the key questions is, will governments, and states have wrestled with this in their legislation, be allowed to just hold on to the crypto assets that they have seized as part of law enforcement,
Right.
or take taxpayer funds and make open market purchases of additional assets?
Okay.
So I think that's a critical distinction. I think what we think is going to happen in the U.S. here is really the former, but I think it's open. I mean, using taxpayer funds to acquire new assets is very different than just taking seized assets that were part of a criminal action
Right.
and saying, look, we've already seized them. They're in the government custody.
Yeah.
Let's just not sell them because we think we
Right.
can make more money by
Just
holding
holding
them rather
yeah.
than selling them. So those are questions I think we're going to have to wrestle with.
Yeah. Well, I hope the government can get all of this resolved by Q1 2026. That'd be really great.
It would be awesome.
Adam, great stuff. Thank you for taking the time.
Thank you for having me. Really enjoyed it.
This episode is brought to you by Trezor. Trezor makes beautifully crafted hardware wallets that allow you to easily and safely store your crypto assets. Trezor's been in the game for a very long time. Since 2013, they were the pioneers of hardware wallets in the seed phrase setup, and their hardware wallets are open source. In fact, my favorite is the Trezor Safe 5. It's a beautifully designed and easy to use hardware wallet, guys, and it's my go-to. And they support a variety of coins. All your top crypto tokens, your Bitcoins, your XRP, Ethereum, Solana, and much more. And even new coins, even BlackRock's BUIDL token. So they support coins on the institutional side where you have tokenization of different assets and much more. And they even offer a great service that helps you to get your Trezor device set up. You get one-on-one customer support from their team. So you can check that out as well. So once again, I'm a big fan of this hardware wallet. So if you'd like to learn more, visit the link in the description.